Accounting Standard 24, Discontinuing Operations. It should be considered as a logical extension of Accounting Standard 17, Segment Reporting. See, as a user of financial statements, I will like to know which are the different businesses that an enterprise is doing. Similarly, I will like to know which are the different geographical areas where the enterprise is operating. So let us say if a company is doing more than one business, or if a company is operating in more than one country, then as a user of financial statement, or let's put it in that way, as a shareholder, I will be interested in knowing that which are the different businesses that you are doing, how is each business faring. Similarly, I'll also like to know that which are the different geographical areas where a company is operating. Now, those disclosures will be available under Accounting Standard 17. But what if a company is doing 5 different businesses and it decides to shut down one business? What if a company is operating in 5 different geographical areas and it decides to withdraw from one geographical area? Will you not be interested as a shareholder in getting disclosures even with respect to the operations that a company is deciding to discontinue? That is the objective of Accounting Standard 24, Discontinuing Operations. So Accounting Standard 17 is giving disclosures with different businesses that a company is doing. Let's say a company is doing 5 different businesses. How much is the revenue from every business? What are the expenses? What is the profit? What are the assets? What are the liabilities? As a financial statement user or as an investor in this company, I want to know all those details. Similarly, if you have decided to discontinue a particular business, or if you have decided to discontinue doing business in a particular geographical area of operation, again I'll be interested in getting those disclosures. Isn't it? For example, a company is doing, let us say a company is doing 4 different businesses and all the businesses are doing extremely well. And that is the reason I have invested in the shares of that particular company. And all of a sudden that company decides that this business I will no longer do now. Obviously, it will affect the market price of the company's share. Obviously, it will also affect the return that I will get as an investor for my investment. So that is the reason timely disclosures with respect to discontinuing operations is also required. So that is what Accounting Standard 24 is all about. It will provide disclosures for those businesses that a company is deciding to shut down. Similarly, it will give disclosures with respect to those geographical area of operations from where the company has decided to withdraw. But first and foremost, of course, we will like to know what do we really mean by a discontinuing operation. So let's analyze the definition given under Accounting Standard 24. Yes, this is what we mean by a discontinuing operation under Accounting Standard 24. Discontinuing operation, I have written that in short, is a distinguishable component of an enterprise representing a major line of business or geographical area of operations which has been disposed of either entirely or substantially. Right, I really like you to again consider this phrase. We are saying it's a distinguishable component. Compare this with the definition of Accounting Standard 17. Under AS 17, we have a definition of segment. That what do we mean by segment? And if we analyze the definition of segment in AS 17, they say segment is a distinguishable component of an enterprise subject to different risks and rewards. So we are using that same phrase over here, even in Accounting Standard 24, that it should be a distinguishable component. The reason why these words are used is because we are supposed to give separate disclosure for the same. When can you give separate disclosure? Only if you have recorded it separately in the first place. We had discussed this in AS 17 also, but again I will discuss the same point. For example, let us say you are doing chemical business, you are doing pharma business, you are doing paint business. Whenever you sell chemicals, you simply say to sales. Whenever you are selling, say pharma, any pharma product, you simply record it as sales. Any item that you are selling, you simply record it sales. And then as per AS 17, you are supposed to provide business-wise disclosure that what is your revenue. But what were you doing? Whether you are selling a pharma product, or you are selling a paint product, or you are selling a chemical product, every time you say to sales, then you are not having any separate information. And when you don't have separate information, how will you share it with your shareholders? No management will do this kind of accounting. Every management of the company will be very clear that please record the sales of chemicals separately. Please record the sale of paint separately. Please record the sale of pharma products separately. Because unless and until I do not record the income separately, the expenses separately, how will I come to know at the end of the year that which business is doing well, which business is making profit, and which business might be incurring a loss? So that's what we mean by distinguishable. I will be recording the financial data separately. Unless and until I don't record the financial data separately, where is the question of providing separate disclosures? That's the reason we again use the word distinguishable component. If I am planning to shut down a particular business, how will I give information about the business that I am planning to shut down till I have not recorded items relating to that business separately? And when will I record it separately? Only if it is distinguishable. So that business must have an identity of its own separate from other businesses, or the geographical area of operation must have an identity of its own separate from other geographical areas. So that is the reason we use the word distinguishable, so that later on we can provide separate disclosures for the same. One more thing. It should be a distinguishable component representing a major line of business. Unfortunately, these words major is not defined in the accounting standard. When can we say the business is major? When can we say that the geographical area of operation is major? Because till it is not major, I will not provide separate disclosures. So this word major is not defined anywhere under Accounting Standard 24. What to do now? As I said at the very beginning, AS 17 and AS 24, right? They should be considered to be something that are complementing each other. Now in Accounting Standard 17, if you remember, we were having criteria which were based on 10%. So they were using the term 10% over there. I can again use that same concept over here. Let me tell you, this is not there in Accounting Standard 24, right? I am just borrowing it from AS 17 to help me understand when can I say the business is major, or when can I say a geographical area of operation is major. I can use AS 17 as a guide over here. So if your assets are 10% or more, or revenue is 10% or more, or your profits or losses are 10% or more, perhaps we can consider that as major. Because in Accounting Standard 17, we say 10% or more, and then we provide separate disclosures. So that is the reason I can use that same logic over here. I can consider 10% or more as the criteria and come to the conclusion whether it is major or not. So it should be representing a major line of business or a geographical area of operation. What more? Which we are planning to dispose it of entirely or substantially. You sell few assets here and there, that will not make it a discontinuing operation. For example, I am doing a paint business, and let us say one of my machines has now worn out, so I want to replace that particular machine. So I sell that machine and now I buy a new machine. This is not a discontinuing operation, right? You are selling an asset, agreed, but you are not disposing of the entire business. So selling few assets here and there does not become a discontinuing operation. Either I am selling it entirely or substantially, right? Let's say 80 to 90% of the assets I am selling away, then I can say it is a substantial sale. Or I might just be selling away the entire industrial unit itself. So this is what we can understand as a discontinuing operation. Distinguishable component of an enterprise, so that later on separate information can be disclosed. It should be representing a major line of business or a geographical area of operations. For example, I am doing 5 businesses. There is one business which is contributing to 1% of my revenue. or there is one business which is contributing to 1% of my profit, or it is utilizing, let us say, less than 1% of my assets, I cannot say it is a major line of business. If I shut down that business, I do not have to provide any disclosures. You only think, what difference will it make to the shareholder whether you do that business or you do not do that business, because it has hardly any impact on the profits of the enterprise. So that is the reason. It's not a major line. If it is not a major line, then let's not unnecessarily give too much of information to the shareholder. So much information that the shareholder might just become confused. That's the reason. If it is substantial, right, then if it is material, as we say, then we should disclose that particular information. Next thing, how you are disposing of is not important. It can be any way by which there is change of ownership, right? Either you do an outright sale of assets. For example, I am doing, let us say, paint business in which I am no longer interested in. I am assuming it's a major line of business. So I am doing paint business in which I am no longer interested. So I want to sell that business. Let us say there is another company which is in the paint business. I transfer my entire business to that other company. So that is an outright sale of assets. I will consider that as a discontinuing operation. Or it can be a piecemeal sale. I am planning to shut down my paints business. There is no other company who is interested in that paint business. So what I am doing is, gradually I am selling the assets of that particular business. So few assets I am selling to one party. Then after, let us say, 1 or 2 months, few more assets I am selling to another party. As I get good deals from different potential buyers, I keep on selling my assets. So that is what I can call as a piecemeal sale. Piecemeal sale, a gradual sale in installments. So if that is what I am doing, I can still consider that as a discontinuing operation. What more? Yes, it can even be by way of a demerger. Demerger, I may myself float a separate company and transfer my business to that particular company. For example, there is company A which is doing 5 different businesses, okay? And let us say one business I transfer to another company. Now, which is that company? Company A itself is floating another company. Let's say it's a 100% subsidiary. Let us say it is company B. And I transfer this business to my subsidiary. You can consider this as a demerger. Demerger means dividing your company into smaller companies, and then we will have different companies managing different businesses. So I'm doing 5 businesses as the illustration is. One business is a pharma business, let's say for example, and I am planning it to transfer it to a separate company. The moment you are transferring it to that separate company, although that separate company is still within your control perhaps, but still you will consider this as a case of demerger, and even demergers will be also considered to be a discontinuing operation. For example, right now Reliance Industries has one major subsidiary, and that is the Jio, right? The Jio operations. So it has been extremely successful in telecommunication. It is more or less a given fact that in future the entire Jio business will be transferred to a separate company. Yes, that separate company will be still controlled by Mukesh Ambani only. So Mukesh Ambani will be controlling Reliance Industries, and Mukesh Ambani will also control the company, the separate company which will be doing the Jio business. But this will still be considered to be a discontinuing operation. Because as far as Reliance Industries is considered, it has now discontinued doing the telecom business, because now the telecom business will be done by a separate company. So that is the reason. We can say that even the cases of demerger is also turning out to be a case of discontinuing operation. Finally, we say any other form or change of ownership, right? In any other way if the ownership is changing, I can still consider that as a discontinuing operation. Or even if you just abandon that particular business or geographical area, even that can also amount to a discontinuing operation. Abandonment, I want to sell away the assets of that particular business to a third party, but I am not getting anyone who is interested in buying that assets from me. I try for piecemeal sale also, still I am not getting any buyer. So I may decide, okay, shut it down, this particular business, I am simply not interested in it. So you simply abandon that particular business. If you simply abandon that business, even that can also be considered to be a discontinuing operation, provided of course it should represent a major line of business or a geographical area of operations. Yes, what more? Let's discuss further. Yeah, further conditions for something to be considered as a discontinuing operation is if the enterprise has entered into a binding contract of sale or you have passed a resolution for the sale. So that's when we can consider it to be a discontinuing operation. So earlier we were discussing that it should be a distinguishable component of an enterprise. Then we were saying it should represent a major line of business or a geographical area of operations from where you are withdrawing. Then we had also seen that it should be substantial, and if not substantial, maybe the entire business has been sold. Then we have seen there are different ways in which it can be disposed of, and this is something more that is required for something to become a discontinuing operation. Either you have already entered into a binding contract of sale. As we were discussing earlier also, one of the business that I'm doing is a pharma business. I'm no longer interested in the pharma business, so I'm planning to sell the pharma business. And let us say there is another pharma company which is interested in buying that business. I have already signed a contract with that other pharma company that yes, this is the value at which I am ready to sell my business. So let us say we have done the valuation of our business. The valuation of the business comes out to be 30 crores. The other pharma company is like, yes, we are ready to pay you 30 crores and we sign a contract. If you have already entered into a binding contract of sale, that means you have already disposed of that business. We will consider this as a discontinuing operation. Of course, provided the earlier conditions are getting satisfied, right? So I will say it's a discontinuing operation. Why? Because the company is now committed to sell that particular business. Because the moment I sign a contract of sale, that shows my level of commitment to sell that business or to withdraw from that geographical area of operation, right? Or what's the other possibility? It is not necessarily that I plan to sell a business and immediately I will find a buyer and then we will start negotiations and then we will just enter into a contract of sale. Not necessarily this will happen every time. This event is more likely to occur. The board of directors, right, when it comes to a company, board of directors, or if let's say it's a partnership firm, then maybe a similar governing body, it has passed a resolution to sell all or substantial assets in a phased and time-bound manner. In other words, the board of directors has taken a decision that yes, this is the business that we are no longer interested in. This is the business that we want to dispose of either entirely or substantially in a phased and time-bound manner. Have you passed any resolution with respect to this? If you have passed a resolution with respect to it, then it shows the board of directors. That means it shows the management's commitment to withdraw from that particular business. You know, many a times you might be debating, let's say if you are in the board of directors and let's say one business is making loss, then certain directors may be of the view that we should shut down this particular business, we should sell it to someone because we are losing money, right? It is incurring a loss. While there might be also some other directors who might have a counter view. They may feel that no, we should spend more money on advertisement, and if we will spend more money on advertisement, if we manage our marketing activities well, then we have a good product. That product will definitely work in the market. So what is happening is, some directors are of the view that we should sell the business. Some directors are of the view that no, we should continue the business. We should make more investment in the business and perhaps give another 2-3 years and then the business will actually start growing. So a debate is going on within the board of directors that what should be the future line of action. Then I cannot consider it to be a discontinuing operation, because discontinuing operation means I am planning to sell it. Remember, in a company, decisions are taken by the board of directors. If the board of directors themselves are unclear that what will be the future course of action, I cannot consider it to be a discontinuing operation. Just because few directors feel that we should sell this business does not mean it's a discontinuing operation. So it is very much necessary that there is a proper board meeting, and in the board meeting they pass a resolution. So as I was saying, some directors are of the view that we should continue, and some directors are like that we should discontinue. But eventually when this meeting occurs, more and more directors are of the view that no, we should shut down this particular business. That seems to be a better option. So the moment you decide that we will shut down this particular business or we will withdraw from this geographical area of operations, then you can say that it will be a discontinuing operation, because now the board will pass a resolution. What will be the resolution? It will identify the business that it wants to discontinue, right? And it will even identify which is the area of operation from where you may like to withdraw. So it will identify that area, then it will decide that how we are going to sell this particular business. Are we selling it entirely or substantially? How long will it take for us to discontinue that business? That's the resolution that you will pass. That you will sell all or substantial assets in a phased and time-bound manner. Now we can finally say that it's a discontinuing operation. So let us try to summarize our entire discussion. Tell me, what exactly do we understand as a discontinuing operation? What's a discontinuing operation? It's a distinguishable component of an enterprise, right? It is representing a major line of business or a geographical area of operation from which we are withdrawing, right? And remember, we are withdrawing entirely, and if not entirely, then at least substantially. Few assets here and there you are selling, that's not a discontinuing operation. How you discontinue does not matter. I may sell it entirely to one party, or I may sell it in installments to different parties. It makes no difference. And finally, if the enterprise has already entered into a binding contract of sale, yes, it's a discontinuing operation. But this is not likely to be done every time. Perhaps what is more important is that the board of directors has made up its mind that yes, we want to discontinue this business. So they pass a resolution that we will sell all the assets or substantial assets in a phased and time-bound manner. That is a discontinuing operation.